Playing with Power MTG. Powerful cards, powerful formats. Before we get into today's video, I wanted to tell you about our sponsor, Factor. Factor is a meal service that takes the hassle out of meal prep and planning. Unlike other meal services, Factor cooks your meals ahead of time so it arrives ready to heat and eat within minutes. But this isn't just some fast food or TV dinner style service. These meals offer fresh, never frozen ingredients across a variety of preferences. There are over 25 meal options each week, so you'll never get tired of the meals delivered to your door. Nowadays, the only quick options are unhealthy fast food or over-processed, stale-tasting frozen dinners. Factor's meals ensure that you always have something nutritious and delicious on hand. It gives you time back to focus on the things that you love to do. So give Factor a try today. Use my link or go to go.factor75.com and use the code POGPlayingAUG50 for 50% off of your first box. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code with your phone. A big thanks to Factor for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's start out by showcasing our fighters this evening. First, we have Emma piloting Sythis, Harvest's Hand. This is a stacks deck that seeks to use its commander to get card advantage and turn it into a win condition. Her opening hand contains 2 planes, Canopy Vista, Sylvan Tutor, Alseid of Life's Bounty, Moonblessed Cleric, and an Aetherflux Reservoir. Next, we have Matt piloting Urza, Lord High Artificer. This is an artifact combo deck that seeks to make infinite mana and then sink it into its commander to win the game. His opening hand contains an Urza Saga, Tormod's Crypt, Arcane Signet, Jeweled Lotus, Dramatic Reversal, Muddle the Mixture, and a Fabricate. After that, we have Alex piloting Kenrith, the Return King. This is a mid-range value list that seeks to win with Dockside Loops and either Breach or Oracle combos. His opening hand contains a Wheel of Fortune, Drenith Magistrate, Swansong, Mana Confluence, Mayhem Devil, Chrome Mox, and a Spell Pierce. Finally, we have Alana piloting the partner pair of Rograkh, Son of Rograkh, and Silas Wren, Seeker Adept. This is a turbo ad nauseum deck that seeks to use its cheap commanders to gain advantage and then cast a winning combo as fast as possible. Her opening hand contains a Bloodstained Mire, Ancient Tomb, Jessica's Will, Deadly Rollick, Tainted Pact, and her London Mulligans are Underground Sea and Snap. Without further ado, let's kick off this optional octagonal oral orrery. It's Emma's first time playing CEDH, so she gets to start us off. Emma draws a card for turn and plays a Plains. She casts Alseid of Life's Bounty. She passes the turn. Matt draws a card for turn and casts a Jeweled Lotus. He plays an Urza Saga, getting its first counter. He cracks Jeweled Lotus to help cast his commander, Urza, Lord High Artificer. Urza enters and Matt creates a construct. He casts a Tormod's Crypt. He casts an Arcane Signet. He ends his turn. Alex draws and plays a Command Tower. He casts a Chrome Mox and Printing Spell Pierce. He ships the turn. Alana draws and plays a Bloodstained Mire. She cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up a Badlands onto the battlefield. She casts her commander, Rograkh, Son of Rograkh. She ends her turn. Emma draws, plays a Canopy Vista, and passes. At the end of Emma's turn, Alana casts Deadly Rollick for its alternate cost, targeting Urza. In response, Matt casts Fierce Guardianship for its alternate cost, targeting Deadly Rollick. In response, Alex casts Swansong, targeting Fierce Guardianship. Swansong resolves, Fierce Guardianship is countered, and Matt creates a 2/2 bird. Deadly Rollick then resolves, destroying Urza. The turn moves to Matt. Matt draws, and in his first main phase, Urza Saga gets another counter. He moves to combat and attacks Alana with the bird and the construct. She takes it, and Matt passes the turn. Alex draws and plays a Mana Confluence. He casts Drenith Magistrate. He ends his turn. Alana draws and plays an Ancient Tomb. She ships the turn to Emma. Emma draws and plays a Plains. She casts Moonblessed Cleric. Cleric triggers, and Emma fetches up Kenrith's Transformation onto the top of her library. She moves to combat and attacks Alana with Alseid of Life's Bounty. Alana takes it, and Emma gains a life. She passes the turn. Matt draws, and in his first main phase, Urza Saga triggers. He floats a mana and then sacrifices it, fetching up a Soul Ring onto the battlefield. He casts the One Ring. The One Ring enters, and Matt gains protection from everything until his next turn. He activates the One Ring, adding a burden counter and drawing a card. He moves to combat and attacks Alana with everything. She takes it, and Matt ends his turn. Alex draws and plays an Ancient Tomb. He taps Mana Confluence to cast Skirk Prospector. He taps his Ancient Tomb to help cast Wheel of Fortune. In response, Alana casts Calling the Weak, sacrificing Rograkh and adding 4 black. Wheel of Fortune then resolves, and each player discards their hand and draws 7. He moves to combat and attacks Alana with Drenith Magistrate. She takes it, and Alex ships the turn. Alana draws and pays 2 life to cast Jitaxian Probe, targeting Alex. She looks at Alex's hand and draws a card. She plays a Watery Grave and to play untapped, paying 2 life. She casts a Lotus Petal. She taps Ancient Tomb to help cast Talisman of Dominance. She casts a Time Twister. In response, Matt casts Force of Will, paying a life and exiling a blue card, targeting Time Twister. In response, Alex sacrifices Skirk Prospector to cast Pyroblast, targeting Force of Will. Force of Will is countered, and Time Twister resolves. Each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library and draws 7. Alana passes the turn. Emma draws and plays a Wooded Foothills. She cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up a forest onto the battlefield. She casts Enchantress's Presence. She moves to combat and attacks Alana with everything. Alana takes it, and Emma gains a life. She ships the turn. During his upkeep, Matt loses a life from the One Ring. He draws and plays a snow-covered island. He activates the One Ring, adding a counter and drawing 2 cards. He casts Imposter Mech, enters the battlefield as a copy of Draneth Magistrate. He casts Grim Monolith. He moves to combat and attacks Alex with everything. Alex takes it, and Matt ends the turn. Alex draws and plays a Steam Vents, and to play untapped, paying 2 life. He casts Mox Opal. He casts Lion's Eye Diamond. He taps his Ancient Tomb to cast a Felwar Stone. He casts a Soul Ring. He casts Ranger Captain of Eos. Ranger Captain enters, and Alex fetches up an Esper Sentinel into his hand. He casts Esper Sentinel. He moves to combat and attacks Alana with Draneth Magistrate. She takes it, and Alex passes the turn. Alana draws and plays a Gemstone Mine. She casts Demonic Tutor. Esper Sentinel triggers, and Alex draws. She then fetches up a card into her hand. She casts Defense Grid. She casts Thassa's Oracle. In response, Alex activates Ranger Captain, sacrificing it. In response, Alana casts Demonic Consultation. In response, Matt casts Force of Negation, exiling a blue card targeting Demonic Consultation. Esper Sentinel triggers, and Alex draws. With no other answers, Force counters and exiles Consultation, Ranger Captain's ability resolves, then Oracle resolves. Alana looks at the top 2 cards of her library and puts them both on the bottom. With nothing else, and her win attempt thwarted, she ships the turn to Emma. Emma draws and casts Whip Silk, Enchantress's Presence and Esper Sentinel trigger, and Alex and Emma draw. Emma casts Destiny Spinner, and she draws from Enchantress's Presence. She moves to combat and attacks Alex with everything. Alex takes it, and Emma gains 1. She ends her turn. During his upkeep, Matt loses 2 life from the One Ring. He draws and activates the One Ring, adding a counter and drawing 3 cards. He plays a snow-covered island for turn. He casts Karn, the Great Creator. Esper Sentinel triggers, and Alex draws. He activates Karn's first ability, targeting Alex's Chrome Mox, killing it. He moves to combat and attacks Alex with the Construct. Alex blocks with Esper Sentinel, Sentinel dies, and Matt passes the turn. Alex draws and casts Culling the Weak, sacrificing Draneth Magistrate as an additional cost, adding 4 black. He casts Ad Nauseam. With no answers, Ad Naus resolves. Alex reveals a Volcanic Island, Lotus Petal, Grim Monolith, Vampiric Tutor, Misty Rainforest, Gamble, Diabolic Intent, Dockside Extortionist, and a Wheel of Fortune, deciding to stop there. He taps his Mana Confluence to cast Gamble. He fetches up a card into his hand and then randomly discards Vampiric Tutor. He plays a Volcanic Island for turn. He casts Chain of Vapor targeting Karn. Karn bounces, Matt sacrifices a land to copy the chain targeting Defense Grid. Defense Grid bounces, and Alana stops the chain. Alex casts Dockside Extortionist. Dockside enters, and in response, Matt casts March of Swirling Mist, exiling a blue card targeting Dockside and the Constructs, phasing them all out. Dockside's trigger resolves, and Alex creates 11 treasures. He taps his Ancient Tomb to help cast Phantasmal Image. Image enters as a copy of Alseid of Life's Bounty. He casts Diabolic Intent, sacrificing the Alseid, fetching up a card into his hand. He casts a Lotus Petal. He casts a Manifold. He casts Grim Monolith. He casts Arcane Signet. He casts Orcish Bowmasters. Bowmasters enters, Matt takes 1, and Alex amasses Orcs 1. Alex casts Enlightened Tutor. In response, Matt pays 2 life to cast Mental Misstep, countering Tutor. Next, Alex casts Wheel of Fortune. With no answers, Wheel resolves. Each player discards their hand and draws 7. Bowmasters triggers 21 times. Alex deals 2 damage to the bird, 12 at Alana, and 7 at Matt. Alana dies, and Alex puts 21 counters on his Orc army. He casts Dark Ritual, adding 3 black. He casts a Spellseeker. It enters, and Alex fetches up a Tainted Pact into his hand. He casts Rhystic Study. Unfortunately unable to close it out, he passes the turn to Emma. Emma draws and plays a Sarah Sanctum. She casts Spirit Mantle, Enchantress's Presence, and Rhystic Study trigger. Emma pays for Rhystic, and then she draws a card. Bowmasters triggers, and Alex targets Alseid of Life's Bounty. In response, Emma floats 4 white through Sarah's Sanctum. Then Alseid dies, and Alex amasses 1. Emma casts Retether, and Alex draws through Rhystic. Retether resolves, and Emma returns Canopy Cover, enchanting Destiny Spinner, and Whip Silk, enchanting Moon-Blessed Cleric. She moves to combat and attacks Alex with everything. Before damage, Emma casts Karamitra's Blessing, targeting Moon-Blessed Cleric. Rhystic Study triggers, and Alex draws. In response, Alex casts Tainted Pact. He holds priority and sacrifices his Lion's Eye Diamond, discards his hand, and adds 3 blue. Pact resolves, and he exiles cards until he finds Fierce Guardianship, putting it into his hand. He hard casts Fierce Guardianship, targeting Karamitra's Blessing. Blessing is countered, and then Alex takes the damage. Emma ends her turn. During his upkeep, Matt loses 3 life from the One Ring. He draws and activates the One Ring, adding a counter and drawing 4 cards. Bowmasters triggers and deals 4 damage to Matt, and then Alex amasses 4. He plays a Command Beacon for turn. He cracks his Command Beacon, putting his commander into his hand. He recasts Urza, Lord High Artificer, and Alex draws through Rhystic. Urza enters, and Matt creates a construct. He casts Power Artifact, targeting Grim Monolith, and Alex draws through Rhystic again. Matt pays 2 and untaps Grim Monolith, reduced through Power Artifact. He taps Grim Monolith for 3 colorless. He presents a loop of using Grim Monolith and Power Artifact to create infinite colorless mana. He then presents another loop of tapping Grim Monolith for blue through Urza to create infinite blue mana. He casts Hullbreaker Horror. He casts Mind Over Matter. Hullbreaker Horror triggers and returns Bowmasters to Alex's hand. Matt activates Mind Over Matter, discarding a card and untapping the One Ring. He activates the One Ring, adding a counter and drawing 5 cards. He repeats this process 2 more times, discarding 2 cards, adding 2 counters, and then drawing 13 cards. He casts Spellskite, Hullbreaker Horror triggers, and Matt bounces the Orc army. He casts Sensei's Divining Top, Horror triggers and bounces Ristic. He casts a Mana Crypt, Horror triggers and bounces Spellseeker. He casts Whir of Invention, where X equals 2, fetching up a defense grid onto the battlefield. He activates Urza over and over, exiling his entire library. He casts Dramatic Reversal and untaps his non-land permanents. He crews Imposter Mech with a Construct. He presents a loop of using Hullbreaker Horror to bounce Jeweled Lotus and Urza back and forth to create a very large amount of constructs. He moves to combat and attacks Alex with the Imposter Mech and Emma with a 100,000 construct. They all take it, die, and Matt wins the game. Ladies and gentlemen, what a match. Congrats to Matt on his win. He showed off an awesome combo with Mind Over Matter and the One Ring. He was able to draw a bunch of cards through this synergy, find what he needed, and close it out in an awesome fashion. The most valuable card in tonight's game, sponsored by Luxury Playstyle, goes to Orcish Bowmasters. This card was able to sweep the board, put pressure on opponents, and even killed a player tonight. And if that wasn't enough, it even created a massive creature that threatened lethal combat damage to multiple people at the table. This card is great, and we love to see it in CEDH. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. Tune in next time when we duke it out to see who will be king of the competitive EDH table. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.